Hey, dualpreneur, do you hate dealing with the financial aspect of your business? Like that data entry, that bookkeeping stuff? Is it just really a nuisance or a nonsense to you? I understand. But my guest here today is going to teach you ways that you can make it easier on you, but why it's so significant that that must be done for your financial success. Welcome, everyone, to the Dualpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Tara Jackson, aka Madam Money. I have an amazing guest and former client, Miss Sonja Jones of GIP Financials. Well, hello, beautiful.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. It's just everything's just amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. You look amazing. Your last photo shoot, I was like, what is this chick doing? Fire. Go on
Thank
with your
you.
bad self. Good
Yes.
job. Good job. She's that hot bookkeeper. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you. Well, I got to
Yeah.
give my flowers to my amazing soror, Trinetta Outwater, in Jackson, Tennessee. Her and her team glammed me out and did the photo shoot. So
They
it all
did
goes to
that.
her.
Shout out. Good job, Tennessee. Good job. Well, thank you so much for being on today because there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, especially as we're coming up, in the new year. We are in the new year of 2023, and people want to do this thing right. And my whole mantra in 2023 is the tribe factor, is building the team and who should be on the team so we can become more successful. And a lot of people, they have this misnomer that, I have a tax accountant and they're going to do everything. Well, no, the tax accountant is going to do the taxes, but they need you to do other things in the beginning or during the year to make their life easier and to make your, process easier and faster as well. So we want to talk about that. But before we get into that, let's talk about Sonja Jones, how amazing you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And you actually are a dualpreneur and you work full time. So let's talk about you and your employer and what you do for your employer.
Absolutely. So first things first, my name is Sonja Jones. I'm the owner of GIP Financials. And prior to GIP Financials, I'm an educator by trade, over 20 years in the game. I'm still a licensed K through 12 instrumental music teacher with the state of Tennessee. First things first. First 12 years of my career, I was teaching elementary school music locally here. And for the past 9 years, I've been director of finance and operations for a local charter school here in Memphis, Tennessee. And from my current position, that's where GIP Financials came into play because who we are as a charter school, we like to pour into our parents who are entrepreneurs, as well as the community to which our school is surrounded. We're in South Memphis, and we just had that old school mentality to where the school was kind of like the heartbeat of the community. It was like the one-stop shop for everything, right? And that's kind of the vision that we carry. And with that, there were a lot of courageous conversations, for lack of a better term, that came with us patronizing and supporting our parents, our community partners, because they just didn't have the proper financial acumen with one, everybody wants to be connected to a school, but they just have some, misunderstandings about the financial accountability that we have to provide because our funds come from the state and the federal government. So with that, they're looking at how we're spending our funds. So just having those courageous conversations about the W-9s, right? If you do business with our school, you are obligated to report those funds on your taxes. So that and just having the talks about the PayPal, friends and family. We can't, as a school, we can't do that. We have to operate in all interest in your business accounts and just having people to kind of step up. So I saw the opportunity there to be able to educate and to be able to teach in a different way. So we started GIP Financials December of 2019, and lo and behold, nobody knew right around the corner.
Mm,
was the pandemic and the PPP funds and the EIDL loans. So that was an opportunity for me and my team to talk about, um, one, you don't have to, apply for the PPP funds in certain ways, because some people just were, taking
mhm,
advantage of people, and just being able
mhm.
to let them know that there's a better, more ethical way to do that, and an easier way, to be honest with you. So with that, and I'm proud to say that all of the partners and the businesses that we helped, not only did they get the PPP funds, but they all got their loans forgiven.
Wow.
Um, Also being able to just coach individual businesses on what the EIDL loan means and the advantages of it, and how they can use that to help catapult their businesses and support them.
That's
So
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. So you went from being a music teacher to being finance director and operations director. And then there's a lot of entrepreneurs that want to work with the charter school. So you saw that opportunity to educate them on the right way to do business. And
Right.
that's where GIP. What does GIP stand for?
GIP stands for Get in Position.
Oh, shucks. There you go. Get in position financials. And that's good, especially with educating people about the PPP loans, EIDL loans. A lot of people really need that information. So that was good that you started that. So let's talk about as and you still have GIP and you're still working full time, right? And you
Yes.
still have a family, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about what are some of the challenges that you're facing with being a dualpreneur, with having a successful business, and for really liking your job and doing your job and still holding the family down too.
Well, first things first, I'm pretty sure with probably the underlying, theme is probably time.
Mhm,
How can I make sure that I remain, high level in serving my employer, but then also serving my family, and then also serving my business and my team? It definitely takes a lot, which means that you're going to have to tap in and weed out a lot of the things,
mhm,
that you just can't do. And a lot of people that you've been serving and helping, you got to have some courageous conversations around it to be able to focus and give everybody their dedicated time. So when I'm at, my school, between my contracted hours, that's what I'm doing. And then
mhm,
after that, then I have to set boundaries even with my coworkers, because prior to GIP, if you're a school administrator, everybody knows you're pretty much on call. It's like
mhm,
ER.
mhm,
Anything can happen. And if
mhm,
something goes down and the school director can't get to, or the facilities manager, I'm over everything non-instructional. So me and my team have to step up. So
mhm.
even in that, just being having to be able to communicate to my teammates, like, between these times, I can't help you, and just being able to say, just put it in the email and we'll get to it the next day. Just being really, really intentional about your communication.
And that follows through with the dualpreneur way of do it, delegate it, or delete it. In order to maintain, and it's not balance, it's prioritizing what's important at the time. Everything is important, but sometimes things take priority. Sometimes your family takes priority, sometimes your job takes priority, sometimes your business takes priority. Most of the time, you should take priority because if you're not okay, everything
Right.
else is not going to be okay. So you're either going to do the revenue generating opportunities, or you're going to delegate those other revenue generating opportunities that you don't necessarily need to do, administrative, bookkeeping, all that, and you're going to delete some things, which may be a delay. And I talked about this several times. It doesn't mean that you're not going to ever do it. It just
Right.
means that it's not going to happen right now, or you need to delete people,
That's
you
right.
know, out of your life. So, 2023 is the tribe, that I call it the tribe factor for 2023 in building the team. But before we go into that, why it's important to build the team, especially to have someone like you on your team, let's talk about some of the challenges. Or some of the opportunities. We talked about the challenges. Let's talk about some of the opportunities or the advantages of being a dualpreneur. Why do you love being a dualpreneur?
I think the biggest advantage of being a dualpreneur is that I get to serve, and I also get to tap into who I am in this stage of my life, right? Because
Mhm,
I've been as an educator for 20 years. Now I feel like I'm a vet. And so
mhm,
now I kind of want to mentor and coach. So one of the things that I'm looking into for 2023 is to also be the person that I had the luxury of having. I had mentors in
Mhm.
school ops and finance. So I want to be that person for the youngins, right, in the game. So being able to do that, and also just being able to kind of like my mentor, Pastor Sean Strickland, talks about being a gap filler, right?
Mm.
What areas that you see in the education space and the entrepreneurial space where you can serve and tap in and be your authentic self. So I think those are the two advantages being a dual entrepreneur is right now for me.
That's awesome. You said youngins. You just made me feel really old. I'm gonna need you to know that that was disrespectful. Okay.
I'm an elder. I'm an elder too. I'm a
Oh,
son.
and she calls us elders again. Oh Lord,
We
Lord.
the auntie. You want to be auntie?
I'd rather be an auntie than an elder. Right?
Oh, no, man. We'll be auntie.
We're gonna be auntie. That is our new name. We're auntie. Do not call me elder, not unless I'm a pastor, and I'm not. So, and I don't want to play one on TV. And there it is. Okay. So let's talk about real quick. A lot of entrepreneurs, they don't like to deal with the financial aspect of it. And I tell them all the time, just because, you know, you start your business doesn't take away those other departments that are in your job. You still have HR department, you still have an accounting department, you still have marketing and sales, you still have research development and all of that, right? You still have operations. So, a lot of them, like, they don't want to deal with that accounting side of it or the financial side of it. They just want to make the money. But
Right.
there's so much involved with that. And, we talk about having a strategy financially, of whether it's a tax strategy, a business finance strategy, a credit strategy, or whatever. But in order to have the strategy, you got to have the numbers. You
That's
got to
right.
have the information that's on the books. So let's talk about that. What is the difference between what you do versus someone that's trying to create strategy? And why is it so significant to have someone like you or for them to do this function?
Absolutely. So, and on my YouTube channel, I talk about the four financial roles, which are the bookkeeper, the tax preparer, the tax planner, and the CPA. A lot of the consultations that I've had previously and what I currently have now, people just assume that because I'm a bookkeeper that I also do taxes, right? And just being able to educate and differentiate between actually the four, because of one of the other things that I think people don't also understand is that just because I'm a bookkeeper doesn't mean I'm a bookkeeper to everyone,
Mm,
right? The
mm,
niche is extremely important. Even with a CPA, those four, financial roles, 9 out of 10 are niched out. And
mm,
so what I also did, I did one video just talking about the four roles, but then on another video, I also dug a little deeper to talk about the questions you should ask for
mhm,
each financial role. One being is, do you offer services for businesses in my industry? And if you
mm,
have to really be, discerning about it, put your Spider-Man ears on to hear the jargon that they use. With tax preparers, I specifically inform my clients, ask them which tax forms they complete. If
mm,
you say Schedule C or 1120 and they're looking at you like you're speaking another language, that should let you know that that's not what they do.
mm,
Right. And even with CPAs, because every CPA again is not a CPA to everyone. They're niched out. So you just have to ask. And even with tax planning, you have to make sure that they have certain certifications. Are they licensed? Or they have the street cred to do what they do in your state? Right.
I like when you said the street cred. That's
Yeah,
important. People don't realize that the street cred, you got the references. Have you done it before? But that's unique that you said that it's like a CPA, it's just like a doctor, a physician.
absolutely.
Everybody has a specialty, right? So you're not going to go to your primary care physician and get heart surgery.
That's right.
You might need to see a specialist on that. So CPAs are the same, and no one really thinks about that. They think just because you have a CPA that you can do everything. That's a good point.
Absolutely. Right. And even to break it down even further, just even in the bookkeeping, because what we do primarily is bookkeeping. Um, and we talked about this a little bit too, between the data entry and the strategy and planning. If you think about like the difference between a nurse and a doctor,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The doctor can't give a proper diagnosis without the nurse going in and getting your vitals, asking you, those questions and things like that. So that's really the difference between, even in bookkeeping, like I have the skills to be like like CFO level services, right? But I also have, like I say, we get GFP financials. I have positionettes, what we call staff accountants, that primarily do the data entry. Every client that we have has an assigned staff accountant, and they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that walks you through like your QuickBooks setup, categorization, reconciliation. Then I go, once they enter in that information, look at your numbers and say, hey, I see that I'm looking at your profit trends to see like, I guess is this an industry thing that, in the summertime the profits are dipping a little bit, but you've got, like July, man, you just wrecked it. What happened in July? What can we do to keep that money flowing,
Mm-hmm.
going forward,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So you also need a thought partner, and that's what really the difference is in strategy and planning. Because on top of that, we also have a tax planner, Brother Michael Tunstall, who I affectionately call Brother Tunstall. So when I see your trends and your information, then that's when I'm constantly asking, who's doing your taxes? Who's doing your taxes? Because you need a Batman and Robin type of situation to where your bookkeeper knows the plug for the tax preparer, and they're working in tandem to make sure that you are paying the least amount of money in taxes, and you're, making sure that you're increasing your profits. Because the least money in taxes that you pay, the more money you're able to keep. And there's some things coming down the pipe for 2022 tax year and 2023 that you need to know about. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a
Absolutely. It is a lot, and we talked about that, especially, now that we're in 2023, a lot of people are going to be very super, super disappointed with their tax refund. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, note to self, do not cuss out
Yes.
your tax preparer. Don't do that.
No, that's your own
So
good.
don't do it. It's not their fault.
It's
So
not their fault.
absolutely. So what are some tips that you can give entrepreneurs, dualpreneurs, as it relates to, financial for their business finances? I mean, I think you gave a great one is to understand the power of with your bookkeeper and the bookkeeping services. And I love the analogy that you use. Like you have the nurse that comes in that does all the vitals, but then you have the doctor that comes in and reads the vitals so they can make a proper diagnosis and prescribe you the right medication. Same thing. You need someone to go in and do all the vitals, that data entry, so that you can look at it and, a strategy and figure out what's going on financially, figure out what's happening, and then prescribe the right financial recommendations for financial prescriptions. So I love that analogy right there. But what are some things that we should consider, some tips that you can give us as dualpreneurs?
Absolutely. So I have a workbook called The Three Financial Mistakes CEOs Make in Their Business. And it's really just borderline talking about systems, right? Because you can't keep money in your pocket without systems. And so the three financial mistakes that I talk about, one is making sure that your entity is set up properly. One of the biggest thing from the PPP situation, a lot of small businesses didn't get it because they didn't have a business checking account. And that's what
Mm,
the lenders for the SBA, they were trying to figure out, people who were legit and who weren't legit from that one single factor. So when we're talking about entity, where's your, I talk about creating an entity folder. You need to keep your EIN number letter in there. If you're an LLC, your articles of organization, all that good stuff should be in there. Your business insurance should be in there. All of that stuff should be in one place, because when it's time for you to apply for capital or grants, then you already have it in one place, right?
mhm,
Your business
mhm,
account information, all that stuff. The second thing is having a money in system, right?
Mhm.
Just looking at when you are receiving revenue, how are you receiving it, right? How often are you looking at your money? What products or services are bringing in the money, right?
Mhm.
With different types of platforms that you're using to receive the money. If you're
Mhm.
service based, invoicing, all that stuff. And then number three is the money out, right? Because you have to have expenses and overhead. That's one of the things that I'm encouraging my clients to do right now is we got about maybe a week or so left in 2023. The probably the most strategic thing that you can do right now to lower your tax liability and have some strategic spending. Notice I said strategic. That don't mean ball till you fall, right? So like if you have a Zoom subscription, right? A lot of those vendors are asking you to like go to an annual subscription or try to prepay those things and also giving you a discount. So it's kind of twofold. So you got that last minute deduction to help reduce, right, your net operating income, but also you get a discount from your vendor. So anybody
Mhm.
that you have a recurring expense with, check with them and see how you can, you know, spend a little extra and also get some discounts, on the back end. So being
Mhm.
very strategic on how you spend your money. So those are the three mistakes, like entity, make sure you got your entity info, you have a solid money in system and a solid money out system.
Awesome. But I love the fact that you said, as a reminder that most people don't qualify for the different government programs because of one thing, the business checking account. And I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, do not use your personal checking account for business expense. Do not commingle. It's called commingling. Do not do that. Have a business checking account. And PayPal is not a business checking account.
Say
Just
it
so
again.
that you know, PayPal is not a business checking account.
Is not. And get that money out of there
Bam.
quickly.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. So, if people have questions about bookkeeping, if they need a bookkeeper, how can they get in contact with you? And you being my formal client, you being my client, I love your website. It's absolutely phenomenal. If I do say
Yes.
so myself, if I do say
Yes.
so myself. So, how
Yes.
can people get in contact with you and learn more about your services or even hire you?
Yes, so absolutely. So first things first, go to www.gipfinancials.com. Schedule a consultation with us. And when you schedule that consultation, you'll see an intake form. Be very honest in that intake form because that's going to be the catalyst to start our conversation so we'll know what type of services that you need. And
Awesome.
once you that's the first thing. Second thing, once you go on their website, opt in so you can get their free workbook so you can print it out and start checking the stuff off the list to see which mistakes you really need help in so we can take care of that too.
I love that. Just like with your physician, your gynecologist, whatever, your cardiologist, be honest because they can't heal what they don't know is hurting you. Same
Absolutely.
thing financially. Be honest. You're not telling mama and them, ain't none of their daggone business. But at
Mm-mm.
least with your financial professionals, especially your bookkeeper, GIP financials, be honest so they can help you and understand how to help you. Great job. Thank you so much, Sonja, for coming on the DUALpreneur podcast. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the DUALpreneur podcast, and we will see you next time.